they worked with me in spreading the gospel. They were involved in that. And then he declares, and their names are in the book of life. So whatever was going on with them, it didn't take them out of God's book. It didn't take them out of that book of life that is so important for us, because when you think about judgment, one of the things that he said about the judgment is this, that he opened the book of life, and the dead are judged out of the things written in the book. So I want to get my name there, and I want to keep it there, because the Bible also talks about some who had their name blotted out on that book of life. It could be somehow erased. But notice, it wasn't erased for Euodia and Syntyche. Great women, godly women, loved the Lord, devoted to the Lord, great workers in the church, and got in fuss. Isn't that strange, isn't it? You've never seen anything like that, have you? That's such an odd idea that we hardly can imagine, two godly, devoted women of the Lord getting in a fuss. Or can we? What do you do? What do you do in a church when two of your most outgoing and godly ladies that are deep in commitment to God get in a fuss with each other? You know, one of the oddest things I've seen down through the years is that when people get in a fuss with each other, it typically leads to their leaving the church itself. I remember not very long ago, not here, praise the Lord, but in a church where I was working, two families, and both of them had multiple children. And both of them had been active members of this church for a long time. But they got into a fuss with each other, really over two of their daughters that had a problem at school. And you know, can you imagine two daughters in high school getting in a little bit of a conflict? Well, anyway, the result of it was this family said, I can't go where they are. And the other family said, well, I can't go here either. And so they just went their separate ways. Isn't that the oddest thing? So what do you do? It's an interesting thing how Paul dealt with that. He said, I want you, my true yoke fellow, to help those women. Don't just ignore it. Don't just pretend it's not there. Help. And Clement, I want you to get involved in helping. Well, let me ask you a question. How do you help people in a fuss? Not easy, is it? I never have liked it. Even if it's a husband-wife getting a fuss and somebody said, well, I want you to go visit this couple. They're not getting along. I want you to go and see what. I always dread that with a passion because it's tough. It's hard to know what to do. You listen to one, you got one story. You listen to the other, got another story. And you listen, if you get them together, you got a third story. Which is just so, I don't know what the word is. It's so unusual knowing how to deal with it. But it's obvious as a church, you can't ignore that kind of thing. Help them. Let me think about some ways that we can help. Number one, we can talk to them about being reconciled to one another. Of rebuilding that relationship. We can visit with them about forgiveness. That, you know, we all mess up. We all make some mistakes. So sometimes there is a tremendous need just to forgive, to allow it to pass. and to say, we both made some mistakes in that whole thing, but we're going to put it totally behind us and forgive. I won't say and forget, because the truth is only God can completely forget a thing. But I can not ever bring it back up again. I can resolve that I'm not going to allow that to destroy my relationship with the person. So we can try to help. You remember Jesus' statement that if you see a brother sin, then go to him first and just talk with him, the brother, and try to get it solved. And then if that don't work, 2 or 3 others with you so that they can somehow confirm the whole thing. Then if that don't work, take it to the whole church so they can pray about it and do everything they can. Don't just ignore it. The truth is, I doubt you'll ever find a church that had some of those disagreements. And so wouldn't it be unusual if we lived in an area where there was just one church and you couldn't run off? You couldn't just say, well, I tell you what, I'm still a devoted Christian, but I'm going to go over to somewhere else and worship. Now, what if you lived in an area where there's just one church? What would you do when you disagree with each other? Well, you got 2 options. You can quit and lose your relationship with God, or you can rebuild the relationship. You can forgive and admit wrongs that were done and move on. And so he pleads with us, help them, and let's get past that. And it's then out of that, which seems odd again, but it's right out of that discussion that he said, rejoice in the Lord always. And again I say, rejoice. Doesn't that seem odd? That right after talking about women being in a fuss, that the next thing would be the challenge for us to rejoice all the time in the Lord. See, there are a lot of things in this life that just pull our joy right away all away from us. That in this world there are things that just hurt us, that disappoint us, that frustrate us, and we tend to lose that joy. But let me tell you something. In the Lord, there's no need for me ever to lose that joy in my relationship with the Lord. Because I have a Lord that is there for me always. I have a Lord that's paid the highest price for my sins to be forgiven. I have a Lord that never leaves me nor forsakes me. I have a Lord that is there to help me to be bold in this life. And to walk every day with that kind of boldness that I'm ready to share the good news with everybody that I possibly can. So out of that relationship with the Lord, that my sins have been forgiven because of what he did on the cross, and that I have him as my Lord and Savior in that relationship, not going anywhere. And so I can rejoice in him, and I can make it so much a part of my life that I can just add on and do it again. Rejoice in the Lord, and again I say, rejoice. Why would you say something over again after you just said it? It's an inspired thing of God. Wouldn't it be enough just to say, rejoice in the Lord, and move on? Why do you say a thing over? If you're a parent, why did you say things over to your kids? Well, Maybe they didn't get it the first time. Or maybe they just need the emphasis of the whole thing. So I tell them again, and probably again, and probably again. And so he said, let me tell you how strong this is. Rejoice. And again, I say rejoice and make that a way of life all the time. Listen, wouldn't it be wonderful if everybody that we met said, boy, that old boy Josh seems so full of joy. Rather than, boy, he seemed to be about the saddest thing I ever saw. So rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice. Then it's out of that he said, let your gentleness be made known to all people. The Lord